Thank you, Maria. Okay, I am calling to order the Finance Committee meeting on Thursday, February 10th. And I will jump right into the script. Public participation guidelines. Members of the public wishing to participate in the meeting must use their full name for Zoom access. If full names are not used, people will not be allowed to participate in the discussion. The town reserves the right to remove any member of the public from the meeting who doesn't use a full name or acts inappropriately. As a preliminary matter, this is Denise Cronow, Chair of the Town of Nantucket's Finance Committee. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative, starting with Peter Schaefer.
Aye.
Joe.
Aye.
Jill.
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
Stephen.
We're approving the agenda?
No, I'm just making sure you're here.
Oh, yes, I'm present.
But thank staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative, and I will start with Maria.
Here.
Libby.
Here.
Brian.
Present.
Ken.
Here.
David.
Here.
Thank you. Rick.
Yep.
Thank
Here.
you. Tucker.
Here.
Jeff.
Present.
Greg.
Here.
Roberto.
Here.
Karen.
Here.
Terry. I know you're here, Terry. Okay, good afternoon. This open meeting of the Finance Committee is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Finance Committee is convening via video conference via the Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and to take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body are available on the town's website. As we turn to the first item on the agenda, I will cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I'll introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they speak, I will ask the members to provide any comments, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Don't forget to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. And please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. And each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. And, you know, my, again, admin issue of I'm a single dog parent. So I'm a single parent of a dog. So when my screen goes dark, Stephen will be chair. That's how that works. Because I still haven't trained Joey to say, no, wait till 6 o'clock, Joey, it's fine. So yeah, okay. I don't know why not, but I'm not a dog trainer. There we go. So with that, may I have approval of the agenda?
Move approval of the agenda.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, Peter.
Aye.
Joe.
Aye.
Jill.
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
Stephen.
Aye.
And I think that's it. And George is connecting. So George, I'm saying aye on your behalf, and Denise, aye. We have one change. We did approve the minutes from February 1st. However, we do have one change that needs to be made. So I am going to ask for a motion to reopen the approval of those minutes.
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, Peter?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Jill?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Stephen?
Aye.
Denise, aye. George is still connecting to audio. So Jill, would you make a motion with the change that you want to see on those minutes?
Yes, so I'd say a motion to approve the minutes with my brief edit.
Could you just tell the committee what your brief edit is, and then?
Yeah, she just asked, she had put down that I asked if the people on west of the airport, if they had to tie in, that really wasn't my question. My question was, are they paying to tie in, and who's paying to tie in? We know the town paid to go into the road, but who's hooking them up individually?
Thank you.
So that
Jill.
was the edit she made.
Thank you, Jill. Anyone second? Can we have a second for Jill's motion?
Second.
Thank you. So Peter,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
Denise, aye. Thank you. Any changes to the minutes from February 3rd?
I did have her change one thing.
Okay.
Because when we talked about institutional support related to Hillary Raport's article, I mentioned the government study committee. She just said it was the government committee. It was just a little broad.
Okay. Thank you, Jill. Okay. So with that amendment that will be made by Terry to the February 3rd minutes, are there any other changes? May I have a motion to approve with Jill's edit?
Motion to approve with Jill's edit.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call. Peter.
Aye.
Joe.
Aye.
Jill.
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
Stephen.
Aye.
Denise. Aye. Thank you. Okay. So now it is review, and it's item number 6 on our agenda. Oh, I skipped over public comments. Excuse me. So I'm looking for any person to raise their electronic hand if they want to make a public comment. Seeing none, I will close the public comment. And now we'll jump back to item number 6, review and discussion of the fiscal year 2023 general fund, enterprise fund, special revenue funds, operating budgets, and county budget. General fund is up first. So Brian, I will turn it to you, and then I'm sure it's you and Libby and all the folks that have joined our meeting today. Thank you.
It is, and I think Maria will screen share, and we'll start with the in order on the agenda, Madam Chair. So we thank you for the opportunity to present, and town administration is the first one on the agenda.
Hang on one second here. Okay, so I'll start, and I will probably need to be helped along a little bit by Greg and Brian and possibly others. I guess everybody's gonna have to mute who's not talking. I don't quite know how you guys want us to go.
Sorry, Libby. Brooke, can you please mute?
Yep.
I think you're the background noise at this point. Still not mute. Oh, thank you, Brooke. Okay, great. Sorry, Libby. Go ahead.
That's okay. That seems better. So our department. So this is the town admin department that has the town manager, 2 assistant town managers. One of those is vacant currently. We have our operations administrator, who is Erica. We have our public records person, who is Maureen. She also helps out with meetings and minutes. We have our office administrator, Katie, pays all our bills, orders our supplies, and handles a number of operational issues. We've got Florencia, our public outreach coordinator. Housing, DEI are also under town admin, and also HR, but we're focusing on the core of town admin in this budget here. So our office is responsible for administering townwide policies and procedures. All these things noted under the department description. I won't read this as we go. Our mission is as noted there, and a lot of this comes from the charter. Our department goals currently are these items listed here. Obviously, we support the select board strategic planning priorities, and we work on developing strategies to implement each goal. We are currently working on plans to address housing issues for town employees. This is becoming very serious and difficult, and we have a number of initiatives underway. We're working on helping with developing the action plan to go along with the Coastal Resiliency Plan, which was adopted earlier this year, early January by the select board. It was endorsed by them. We're continuing to work on municipal facility strategies for centralized and more efficient government operations, including these projects that are listed there. COVID-19 is not completely gone as much as everybody wants it to be gone, but there continue to be issues that we are working on with other departments and state agencies that are ongoing with regard to COVID. And we're working to accelerate sustainability efforts. That's also a strategic plan area of the board. And that includes a variety of areas as noted there. In fiscal 22, we have some initiatives and accomplishments to report out on. Initiative 1, obviously, this is ongoing, assisting the board with its strategic plan and implementation of the various goals. The Coastal Resilience Plan. We hired a DEI director almost a year ago, and that person is Kamal McCarthy, who is about to become Dr. McCarthy. He's working right now, very involved in the early stages of developing a DEI strategic plan, as well as a number of other initiatives. And again, our efforts to identify and create housing opportunities for town employees. We have a procurement out right now. We're working on investigating some real estate acquisition possibilities, as well as possibly what a housing stipend or housing allowance might look like, a program possibly for that, and the town building some housing is also under review. We have some priorities for going into fiscal 23. Obviously, the strategic plan continues to remain a high focus, as does the DEI strategic plan and the goals or programs or initiatives that might come under that. The key recommendations of the Coastal Resiliency Plan, I think you all know, because I think one of you is coming to this. We have a design workshop, a 2-day, all-day design thinking workshop session at the beginning of March, and that will help us get at this. And we're working on, if our budget initiatives are approved, to hire a sustainability officer and a chief environmental health officer to accelerate initiatives, as I mentioned here. PFAS continues to be a very involved issue for town administration, and their COVID, again, continues to be an issue, as well as other public health matters and sustainability issues that are just going to be ongoing. And then again, housing. Significant changes from year to year are listed here. We are spending a lot more time and effort on housing than probably we ever have before. We definitely have staffing and other resource challenges to manage growing needs of the town. We are going to be figuring out the ongoing statewide implementation of the short-term rental tax, the American Rescue Plan Act. There are some specific parameters around the expenditures of those funds, and we're working on what those can be spent on. Again, ongoing challenges revolving around COVID and the emergent public health issues that I just mentioned. Key issues are listed here. Ability to deliver increased service demands while living within limited growth projections. We are really strapped right now. And housing is definitely an issue, getting into the second item there. Cost of living challenges, all of these are issues coupled with I forget what it's called, the great retirement or great exodus of people from the workforce. I was on a sidebar, I was on a Mass Municipal Association workshop earlier this week about hiring for public works departments, and it expanded into other town departments, but this isn't unique to us. As one of the presenters put it, people are too young, too old, or not experienced enough to be qualified to fill some of these positions that a lot of times depend on institutional knowledge or other specialized expertise that towns rely on, that people are just not applying for jobs. They've had it with COVID, they've had it with restrictions, they've just had it. So it's definitely impacting us. Growing emphasis on these sustainability and other environmental issues, municipal facilities. Our Island Home is taking quite a bit of time to address, and we have some emerging possible management options there. Municipal space needs are clearly an issue, even if we are able to secure design funding for a centralized municipal facility, as we have in a capital project request for fiscal 23. That's not going to even be underway anytime soon. And we are possibly looking at renting office space for employees that are new positions that are going to be needed to deal with a lot of these key issues and goals, emerging issues again with PFAS and COVID. I was not really going to go through these graphs. I think we're happy to answer any questions if anybody has any about them. Focusing on the exceptions, I think you all have gotten, as of today, or will be getting very shortly, the Capital Program Committee's report for fiscal 23 capital project requests.
I just forwarded it about 3:30 to everyone.
Okay, and that, by the way, is on the select board's agenda for next week to, Stephen will be giving Welch will be giving a presentation of it at the board's meeting next week. So we have these 10 items under that we have submitted for review. And actually, I think number 10, I'm not sure that made it. The 2 fairgrounds municipal office building design. So that would be a centralized facility at the 2 fairgrounds site. Continuation of our townwide document management system, which I think this is year 2 or maybe even 3. And Greg or Brian, feel free to jump in if I'm saying any of this incorrectly or if it needs additional explanation. Seasonal employee housing design. This would be in the 246 Fairgrounds area back along Waite Drive, closer to the Old South Road end, I guess I would say. And we're talking now, there was a meeting this week with our architect about this. We're talking about not just seasonal employee housing, which is also a serious issue, but could we get 1 or 2 duplexes maybe in there for year-round town employees? So that's sort of dynamically proceeding. New senior center, feasibility and design at the current site. PFAS, groundwater soil investigation, that's sort of phase 2, I think, of an ongoing project. New vehicle for Parks and Rec manager, that really ought to be under Public Works, but we stuck it here at the beginning because it wasn't developed quite yet. A senior employee housing feasibility study. There's a lot of categories of town employees, and senior level employees simply are not going to want to live in housing that is crowded with lots of their own employees. So we need to look at potentially different options for them. Coastal resiliency planning, we don't quite know exactly what projects may arise here, but we know there are going to be projects. So this will help us with either planning or studies or leveraging grants or things like that. Baxter Road relocation planning, we have funding in place now for what is phase 1 of Baxter Road relocation. And this would be phase 2 to complete the steps toward a shovel-ready plan to relocate Baxter Road. And it's not just really obviously we're not picking it up and moving it, but it's not just relocating it back away from the bluff. That won't be feasible. It's going to have to be a series of roadway accesses to these homes coming from Baxter Road, Pulpus Road. It's going to be a variety of roadway sections. The island-wide underground wiring feasibility study, this sort of floats around from year to year, and it would theoretically help us understand how best to proceed with putting wires underground. And it gets complicated because it's not just electric, it's cable and telephone, and all of those operate independent of each other, whether people understand that or not. They all have individual conduit, they all have individual engineering. And we have a lot of times sewer, water, and stormwater conflicts. So it's not that easy to just put the wires underground, as sometimes is commonly said when we're doing a town project. We are working that type of planning more into town projects, but it takes a massive amount of lead time because the overhead utilities have to do their own engineering, and that can take quite a while. Or they look to the town to fund that. And if they don't have to put their wires underground for any particular reason of their own, then it's going to be up to us to do it. So, but I'm not sure this actually made it into the Capcom report.
No, we actually pushed it out a year later. We decided to we didn't have the capacity to undertake it right now.
And that's another thing. Somebody needs to shepherd it along. Operational expenses, the Baxter Road relocation planning management. As Ken might be able to attest, and Jeff Carlson as well, the relocation of Baxter Road is taking a significant amount of time from myself, Ken, and others in town government. We really need to try to centralize this with a position, and we just don't have the capacity with the existing position. So we were looking to determine if we could hire a kind of a project manager for this. We're all sort of a team project manager right at the moment. Professional services increase. This is for, we don't necessarily have specifically identified professional services projects, but they pop up all the time. And we need to have the flexibility to be able to engage a specialized consultant for the particular things that either the board wants or some other group wants and convinces the board is necessary. The Nrta Commuter Shuttle, we funded this in last summer, right, Brian? And ultimately, this would really be in the town, the Nrta assessment to the town, but we wanted to be sure that we cover it for fiscal 23 because that assessment process tends to be a year behind.
And we were also we're also putting the funding in the event that it's not something that can be added to the cherry sheet or isn't considered a new service. There's some steps that the Nrta has to go through to be able to qualify it. And if it's something that we want to do, we wanted to make sure that we had the funding available to do it in the event that that wasn't able to be accomplished.
Thanks. Thank you, Brian. The historic preservation, the historic sidewalk preservation and repair study. This was something that the Nantucket Historical Commission originally submitted to the CPC for funding in fiscal 23. The CPC was not really feeling that it should be funded through that funding source because they typically, for something like this, would look for a town share or match. And they weren't really ready to undergo that approval of that level of cost. So we agreed to put it forward in our budget, and this would be primarily the Upper Main Street area. If anybody's walked along that in the past several years, you'll see it's really challenging to walk along there, and it's going to be even more challenging to determine how to fix it with the massive tree roots and other conflicts that are existing in those sidewalks. So this would help us figure out a way to repair those sidewalks in a historically preserved manner. And we would most likely seek a grant to help us as well, because I'm not sure 40,000 is going to be sufficient. NCTV additional support services. This is a little bit of a placeholder. The select board is going to be talking at its meeting next week about hybrid meetings, and we're working on a report to them about what it will take in additional staff or NCTV resources and or equipment to continue with hybrid meetings and expand it to other boards, committees, and commissions besides the groups that are using it now. And it also a little bit depends on whether or not the state is going to extend its remote meeting permission past April 1st, 2022. But so that remains to be seen, but so that's why it's a little bit of a placeholder. The Delta Playing Fields lease. We have not actually budgeted for this in the past. We've kind of been, admittedly, a little bit putting it off. However, this is actually airport jurisdiction, these playing fields, and they have been, I won't use the word harassing or hassling, but they have been talking to us consistently about the need to actually pay the lease. So we need to start budgeting for that on an annual basis. Office space, as I mentioned before, this is also a little bit of a placeholder. We might need to rent office space because we are bursting at the seams with, it sounds a bit not right, because on the one hand, I'm saying we don't have enough resources for things. And on the other hand, we're hiring employees, which we are, but we don't have them yet. And in the interim, we are going to need to find some space for them. Select board strategic planning initiatives, again, something of a placeholder. There are definitely initiatives that are going to come out of the board strategic plan. They did not make, the board did not make too many changes to its strategic plan in 2021. That might change in 2022. We haven't had our strategic planning session yet in 2022, so we're not quite sure, but we expect that there probably will be some costs associated with it. Brian or Greg, please add to anything that I neglected to say.
No, you covered everything. Regarding the e-document project, Libby, we are engaging with sewer department. That's our phase 2.
Great, thank you. And phase 1 was who again? Health?
Public health and natural resources.
Questions?
Okay, so Peter, you're up first.
Thank you. Libby, I read or heard that a gentleman bought 30 lots up at Richmond for an average price of $230,000 a lot. Did we get involved in that at all? Looked at that, or was that just a pocket deal?
Tucker or Ken, could you address?
That was a private deal that was not offered to us. I cannot confirm whether that's the exact pricing.
Okay, well, in the paper, you can just divide the lots by the number. Did we ever talk to Richmond about buying property there?
We had some conversation with them in the past. Yes.
Okay, because I mean, this guy's going to be able to he's putting up $2 million duplexes and $2 million houses. So it would have been, right down the alley of the senior housing that you were looking for.
Peter, there is some restrictions with respect to it based on the permission that they have, and he has to have a fair number of affordable houses that he's going to have to market at below his cost in order to be able to do them. So that all of the details are not there, but it isn't as it appears as a really as much of a sweetheart deal as it might appear on the surface.
Okay, thank you. Just one other thing, Libby, the rebuilding the senior center, I think the senior center committee was told that it wasn't possible because of the flooding. Has something been determined since then?
I'm not aware that anybody said it's not possible because of flooding there. What the feasibility study would do is look at the feasibility of renovating the existing Island Home facility once that whole operation has been moved, or should it just be rebuilt there? And it would obviously need to have coastal resiliency measures.
Okay, thank you.
But it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be for living like it is now.
So just to clarify to Peter's point, where it exists now, the Salt Marsh Center, that's not what you're studying. You're studying turning the Our Island Home site into the senior center site.
Correct. I'm sorry if I misunderstood that. We are not. I don't know if you did.
I could have misunderstood too, but I just wanted to make sure we were clear.
We are definitely not looking at the current senior center site.
Okay, that's what I was concerned about.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Other questions from the Finance Committee? Joe?
I'm not sure if this is for Libby or for Brian, but the design costs for Our Island Home, the 2 fairgrounds potential office space, have I missed something in the last couple of years? I mean, the multi-million-dollar costs for design work seem to have just exploded, as opposed to back when we did the fire station and some of the other, municipal buildings that were done. Have these costs just, I don't know. I mean, one of them, was it $8 million for the Our Island Home project? Just seems like a gargantuan amount of money for design work.
So the asks of $6 million for the municipal facility and the $8.5 million for the Our Island Home facility is not strictly design. Statutorily, because of the size of these building projects, we would have to engage an owner's project manager first. So the cost is actually, and it's a cost all the way through construction phase of services as well. So it's not just the actual design. It's for OPM services, which we'd have to have design services and then construction management services after. Should we have a a bid and a successful town meeting and ballot vote to fund the actual construction of the facility. So that's not just for the architect to design the building, that's for the costs associated with all, for the majority of those projects.
And are they a percentage of the
It's roughly, yeah, it's roughly about, for Ireland Home, it's typically about 12%, roughly, give or take a little bit, depending on the size and the scope of the ultimate ending point for the construction budget. But Island Home, given the complexities, we did add a little bit more to that just to make sure that we were covered, because that's a little bit more of a intense or complex design than designing a municipal office building. So for the municipal office building, we used a basis of about 50 million, which may be a little bit high. Hopefully it is. And for Ireland Home, I think we used around 60 million and then added a little bit of a buffer for design cost based on the expectation of the challenges to do that facility.
Wow.
I added up when I was going through the budget reviews through the storyboards. I think there's a total of $15 million of design and OPM, et cetera, et cetera. And so my question was to follow on Joe's, which was to say then the outlook for capital coming in the outcoming years. I'm guessing from what you've just said, if it's only 110 million, we're probably doing well.
I would say that there's definitely there's a fair number of larger scale projects that are coming down the road. And I mean, as evidenced by, and I think the town manager and I have indicated, there's a lot of challenges from an infrastructure perspective, and there's a lot of needs. We still haven't, the plan that we put forward this year, not only with the 2 capital requests or the long-term plan, still doesn't even include the actual building of a senior center, which I think is on everybody's goals. So it's certainly, there are some larger scale projects that may be coming in the next few years, and we'll work diligently to manage when we propose those or phase them in versus how what we're phasing in at this time or for what's been approved.
Thank you, Brian.
We also, just to add on to what Brian is saying, municipal construction is very expensive. And there are a lot of code issues that are not required in private construction. And there are a lot of procurement costs not required in private construction. And I think we've all seen the price of materials has skyrocketed. We always think we've budgeted in the Nantucket factor, and then we go out to bid and find that even that hasn't covered it, and then we have to go back for more money. Harbor Master Building, case in point.
So, Libby, my favorite question for you today will be, do you get to keep your trailer or not for your office space?
You had to bring that up, didn't you?
I did have to bring that up.
Well, the trailer is there, is most likely there until the bitter end. And we haven't really decided whether or not we're going to go back to the HDC and ask for the approval again, but we do have a concurrent plan to move it to the landfill for take it or leave it facility purposes. And there is available funding for that. We need meeting space. If we're going to, pretty soon, hopefully, God willing, things are going to get back to be more normal with in-person meetings and hybrid meetings even, and we are going to need meeting space. And so we are going ahead to outfit that trailer, at least in the short term, for that purpose. But I couldn't say right now if that thing is going to stay there.
Well, no, it seems, it doesn't seem logical to spend potentially spend $100,000 in office rent and not be able to use the trailer. It just doesn't seem logical to me. But
yeah. And actually the trailer is not even for offices, it's for meetings.
Okay.
Although, Roberto, do we have somebody in there right now or no? We're doing our vaccine clinic there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're doing just the clinics, but there's no people in there.
Any other questions from the Finance Committee on this particular section? If not, we will move on to Finance. Thank you, Libby.
Thank you, guys.
Brian, you're muted.
2 years and you think I would remember, right? I think housing was next on the agenda, Madam Chair, if I'm correct.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, it is housing. Sorry. Your finance is after housing. Okay. Housing, please, Maria. And Tucker, you really can emphasize, spend time on the exceptions. Please, go through the description and mission briefly. We know what you do. So you don't have to spend so much time, reintroducing that to us. It's really, we're more interested in, what's coming up for you. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Yeah, I think this is my first time at the rodeo here as far as this format goes. So please feel free to direct me. So I won't spend too much time on what we do. We're basically focused on addressing principally the year-round housing need and trying to ensure that we have a healthy and vibrant year-round community, and that the services functions that the community expects both seasonally and year-round to be able to be provided. So if we can move on to the next slide. Taking goals from the Select Board strategic plan on housing, the three principal goals are around continuing an uninterrupted period of safe harbor under the state's 40B law. We have 3 times over the course of the last 3 years been able to have our housing production plan certified, and we are currently in a period of safe harbor running until the end of this year, December 15th of 2022. Goal number 2 is around a greater understanding of the demand and supply at the full range of incomes for, call it, the workforce of our community. And finally, a new goal added by the Select Board this year was around developing a strategy to increase home ownership opportunities. So we have had several initiatives over the course of the last year. As the committee is aware, we have facilitated and broken ground at 31 Fairgrounds Road. The Richmond Wildflower Acceleration is well underway, with buildings being constructed there and anticipated occupancy this spring and summer. We were able to do our first bargain sale purchase for property that may lend itself towards ownership type of opportunities in the White Street acquisition. We are presently on track to close on some property at Bartlett Road, which will add approximately a dozen rental units, as well as contribute toward that further safe harbor maintenance. And 6 Fairgrounds Road, we are keen to finally be able to move forward with, now that the lawsuits are behind us and the tax credits have been awarded. And that project is slated to close on the financing if agreeable terms around a loan from the town can be reached. The closing would happen by May of this year. So looking at our priorities coming up for the year, we are keen to get going with the property at 135 and 137 Orange Street. I can talk a little bit more about that in a moment. Also, we are interested to move forward at property we acquired previously at Vesper Lane, and are working in conjunction with the hospital on, as well as property, as mentioned, at Bartlett Road. We see a key component to answering the ownership opportunity in the creation of a community land trust here on Nantucket. The Vineyard has an entity like this already in their Island Housing Trust, and we've been able to work closely with those folks on establishing one here. If we go down, similar to, I won't spend a ton of time here. It's relatively limited. I would, I guess, mention on the operating side, our expenses go towards things like the update of the housing production plan, the demand and supply study that we're planning on procuring, and also out of these funds would come the funding for our closing cost assistance program at the 150 level, where the assistance at 80 and 100% are provided through CPC funds. So the exceptions, and is there, I mean, I don't know if this is the correct way to talk about it, Madam Chair, but there really are three principal funding articles beyond the operating budget on the warrant for this year. One you talked about at the last meeting with regard to the $5 million bonding from the CPC, and greatly appreciate the FinCom support of that. Secondly, there is the capital item that is the $1.625 million appropriation, which is level funding to last year. In conjunction with that comes the request for a $10 million bonding authorization, similar to the $6.5 million bonding authorization that came last year and was approved. Finally, there's the third element, which is a separate article, Article 20, which is an additional $10 million debt exclusion. And Madam Chair, I don't know if it's useful for me to share some of the information that I had sent yesterday.
Tucker, not until we actually deliberate those articles.
Okay.
Because more appropriate at that time. So we won't be doing that tonight.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's better done just in time when we do those articles. So thank you for the presentation, and any questions from the Finance Committee? Seeing none. Thank you, Tucker. Excellent.
Thank you.
Good. Folks, I think what we can do, because we did spend quite a lot of time, I know each member of the committee, on all the storyboards in preparation for the Saturday Snowmageddon Day. So I really think that it's appropriate that, let's talk about what you want to do in 23, and thank you very much for everything you accomplished in 22, but we all read it, right? And exceptions. That's really probably the most interesting part in terms of going forward. So let's focus on those. Thank you. Over to you, Brian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks to the entire FinCom for the ability to talk about the finance budget. Our goals really for every year are pretty much the same. We continue, the staff works very diligently to make sure that all the financial statements and reports that we produce they're reliable to all the stakeholders, be it in town, out of town, bond aid rating agencies, auditors, that they're free from any potential bias and they're reliable, and they help effectively formulate the financial data to help the town administration make management decisions. The budget, we've worked really hard. Maria, I cannot say enough about the work that Maria has done on rolling out the online budgeting platform. It certainly, we've got some goals in 23 to make that an even better process than it has been now. And with Rick's help, the members that have been the liaisons to the capital program committee certainly know that we've worked really hard to roll out a capital planning software, which we're working on implementing some design changes that the Capcom has worked on. And we're working on making that more robust so we can put it online for the department, for the town and everybody else to have access to in a more easily and readable manner. Maria, if you could keep going. The priorities for 23, Again, achieve an unqualified audit and get the annual comprehensive financial report designation from GOFA. Again, I can say that every year since 2014, through the hard work of the department, we've been able to attain that designation. So that's kudos to all the people and the staff that work so hard. Ensure that all the Department of Revenue schedules, recap, free cash certifications, Schedule A's are all completed and submitted in a timely manner. We certainly have a very big priority, being that much of the general fund revenue is generated from tax billings to issue and process and collect any town-related invoices in a timely manner, including real and personal property taxes and any other general invoices that we do. And this should go without saying, it should be probably priority one, but making sure that our payroll is timely and effectively managed for our staff is always a priority in every year for our staff. We're working internally on developing a strategic plan for the department, including succession planning. I am not going anywhere, but I think that it's prudent that we start looking at that as we move forward. I think it's a good thing for any organization to have. And as we build a more robust procurement office, we certainly want to continue to develop and deploy effective procurement and contract monitoring systems. And part of that initiative will be spoken about in the exceptions. And we're working on building a forecasted funding strategy for the Coastal Resiliency Plan and the other large capital projects, which touches on something that you mentioned previously, Madam Chair. So Maria, if you would go to the exceptions, please. So for exceptions in the finance department, we have two. One of them is a procurement administrator. The $114,000 does include the health projection for health insurance for the potential new employee. This procurement administrator really is going to be focused on contract management. We continue to grow and we continue to do numerous procurements, and some of those have complex contracts that need to be administered along with them. And right now it's not only Rebecca, the assistant procurement officer, but it's myself working on managing and handling all of the contract administration. And there's a lot of work in the beginning. With many companies want numerous changes to our town contracts. So there's a lot of work that goes into getting those contracts finalized. And in speaking with town administration, I think that in order to develop a more robust procurement office, the next step would be to have somebody focus on administering focus solely on administering and working with the town departments on the contract administration. And then secondly, an accounting clerk in Treasury. This was a position that we had prior to COVID. It was vacant at the time COVID impacted us. So we did eliminate it for fiscal 21. This position would report to the treasurer and primarily would be responsible for posting all of the cash receipts packets into the treasurer's cash book, working with the accounting side and making sure that the postings were timely done, and then making sure that the money was deposited. As a point of reference, the town collects approximately $140 million, and every dollar comes through our office, whether it's a credit process through credit cards, whether it's cash, whether it's check, everything comes through our office. That equates to about 9,000 individual cash receipts every year that has to be processed. And right now we're doing that with just the assistant treasurer and the treasurer, which is certainly limiting the treasurer's ability to take on some of the other items that really probably need to be addressed in terms of some things that normally she would have time to accomplish. So we've requested an additional accounting clerk in the Treasury Department to help facilitate the cash receipts process and free up some time for the assistant treasurer and the treasurer to focus on some other areas that would certainly be of a benefit to the town. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions from the committee.
Thank you, Brian. I do not see any hands raised. As always, thank you for your leadership on this topic. Joanna?
Sorry, I just wasn't quick enough. I just wanted to talk a little bit, Brian, about how, the funding of, I think particularly some of the capital projects and also the Coastal Resiliency Plan, and how you knew I was going to ask. You weren't going to get away.
That's all right.
Only because, you know, I think that I have maybe said this before, or at least suggested this idea that we have some sort of a filtering process of how we are prioritizing these projects and how we maybe are ranking them in terms of, because I probably see them in two different ways, right? Projects that are urgent and expensive, projects that are, you know, less urgent, and then sort of regular CapCom projects that we have to do anyway. And so as we get into this, I'm wondering about, you know, two things. One is how you see that filtering process. And then two, how you see financing some of these solutions and how you see fundraising for some of these solutions. Because, you know, there's grants out there for this, and you know how complex this all is, right?
Sure. And that's a really great question. So thank you. I think, I mean, every project that we put forward to CapCom goes through an internal ranking process, trying to tie it to some type of strategic plan, to coastal resiliency plan. So I think some of it is already done now as well. In that respect, there are certainly some planned projects that go to CapCom that just are, we need to do facilities maintenance and things, and they're really going to be difficult to tie to those. But the major projects, we certainly look at those through those lenses. When I mention that, I'm really looking at the $900 million of estimated costs associated with the actual coastal resiliency plan projects that may or may not need to be done. There's certainly some building projects, you're correct, that need to be done as well. So there's well over $1 billion worth of projects if you add all of this up. I don't know, honestly, I couldn't tell you today how we would fund all of them, to be honest with you. We're in the initial stages of, at least I am from a financial perspective, of digesting the report. I think the next step for me is to work with town administration on looking at those projects in the coastal resiliency plan and identifying which ones do we have to do immediately and what do those look like. And then secondarily is which ones are further down the road. And I think if we're talking about grants, I can certainly tell you that I'm not the expert or the one to be writing grants requests for the town. That's far outside of my expertise. I think that without getting too deep into it, we may need to come to a recommendation that we have a grant writer that focuses on that. And that may be something as part of all this analysis that we do. I can tell you that we don't have the capacity to finance all of those projects on a town alone basis. So we are going to have to find either public-private partnerships or grants to do that if we want to continue to implement the rest of the capital plan that we have, which is maintaining the infrastructure that we have right now. So this is a very long process, and it's not one that I candidly have gotten very far into right now. It's something that is on the plate for the assistant finance director and I to start working on. So it's a long range plan that I think needs to have identified the short-term projects that we need to implement and we need to focus on, I think, is the first step. And the next phase falls into place in funding the remaining projects once we have an idea of what those look like. Does that answer your question?
I mean, yes. I mean, probably as much as you're able to right now. I think I have, you know, maybe a couple of additional comments. I mean, one is, look, Brian, you're probably one of the smartest people I know, right?
I appreciate that.
It's true, especially around these sort of municipal finance issues. And you and I had a conversation early on about what it would be like to finance $1 billion for these projects, which is near impossible, you know, maybe third world debt or something silly like that.
It's very difficult.
But I do think that you've touched upon something that probably should be considered sooner rather than later, which is including some sort of a grant writer in your personnel plan, especially for the finance department, because as these grants become available in this sort of coastal resiliency world, and as the federal government starts to get their, you know, their act together in terms of how they're going to start financing it, it would be better for us to be first in line than last in line. And I think that, you know, we as a town, I think have done a really very good job at getting ahead of coastal resiliency, and more so than other communities. And it would serve us well to stay in that position, because so much of this is going to affect us and it's so expensive. So I think, you know, my comment to you would be, if you can get even a part-time grant writer into this budget, it would serve you well to do so. And otherwise, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Joanna. Any other questions for Brian? Okay, thank you. Thanks, Brian. Human resources next. Who's taking that? Is that Greg? Or is Amanda on? I have, everybody's like a half an inch high on my computer.
I think it might be me, unless Amanda's
okay.
on.
Okay.
Is Amanda on?
I do not see her, Libby.
I think we may have told her.
You would do it?
We do it. Yeah.
I think this is you and I, Libby.
Okay. And Greg might have to help us out too, or whoever. So we've got these goals here.
Yep.
And obviously they're kind of, you know, always ongoing. We obviously need to administer our human resources, policies, and programs effectively and efficiently, and maintain compliance with all legal requirements. We are working very hard on recruiting and retaining a diverse workforce, and we will probably see some additional programs or policies or protocols that come out of the DEI strategic plan regarding that. And we are always working to align personnel management and contract negotiations with the goals and objectives of the board. Fiscal 23 priorities are just listed here. We are implementing we are about to kick off a compensation and classification study. Amanda and I are actually meeting tomorrow with our consultant, and we would hope that we could implement recommendations in fiscal 23, but of course it will all depend on what the recommendations are and what they might cost and whether or not they require collective bargaining, which they most likely would. Application of the DEI strategic plan recommendations would be a priority, and it's always a priority to uphold compliance with state and federal requirements. We've got a couple of exceptions here. We are seeking an assistant human resources director. That number there includes benefits. And Amanda has done a very nice job laying out, and in fact, we have a prior report that I think supports this, the capacity of, there's a phrase for this, which is escaping my mind right now, but a number of employees per HR staff person. And as the largest employer in the town, we do not have enough staff people to maintain what our employees need. They need more and more, especially now. We have mental health issues, we have physical health issues, we have work issues that are all complicated because of what's been going on the last couple of years. Not just COVID, but racial justice, social justice, DEI, lots of national events that are impacting the workforce, never mind increasing complexity with state and federal regulations and requirements, benefit plans, collective bargaining negotiations. Municipal personnel management is much more complicated than in the private sector, even if the private sector has unions. Municipal bargaining, especially in Massachusetts, is complicated. And it takes a lot of focus and attention. So we really need a second to Amanda. Amanda is amazing, and she is overburdened at the moment. Oh, that's it.
Thank you. Questions for Libby? You can go back and tell Amanda you did a good job, Libby. Karen, you're up next.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. I guess we will start at our goals. As always, our priority is to provide a reliable and secure method of access to our town resources, making sure that everything is up to date, working, and safe and secure. Excuse me, I don't know where that came from. Our second goal is to improve our cybersecurity landscape. As everybody knows, cyber attacks have been on the rise for the past several years, especially. And local town governments are a increasing target. I'll get a little bit more into that in my priorities. Goal 3 is to support our integrated town processes and improve our administrative efficiencies for our e-permitting system, Munis, and our GIS and records management systems. We also are aim to maintain and improve our network infrastructure, making sure that everything is working, that all of our departments are connected together and everybody can access the tools and services that they need to run the town government. Priority 1 is really cybersecurity. Like I had mentioned earlier, there has been an increase of cyber attacks on local governments, and they're much more targeted and sophisticated than they were in the past. They're harder to identify. And so we are increasing our monitoring and mitigation activities. We're increasing our cybersecurity awareness training. We have been participating with the state cybersecurity awareness training grant, and this is our 3rd year. We also perform new hire onboarding with our own internal cybersecurity training program. We are implementing multi-factor authentication, utilizing a Cisco product. And we're increasing all of the tools that we use to protect our network. So there is an increasing need to provide these tools and for personnel resources to implement these tools. For priority 2, Microsoft is moving in the direction of cloud services. And we, in order to keep up, we plan on migrating the Exchange email system to the cloud and also add cloud-to-cloud backup so that we have appropriate and complete backups for all of our systems, both on-premise and in the cloud. We're hoping to upgrade the wireless network in fiscal 23. Our current wireless network is aging out, and we don't have a centralized control dashboard, which we really need. Again, priority 4 is to continually assess and improve upon our department fiber and/or wireless connections between the departments to make sure that there is adequate bandwidth and redundancy. And as always, our last priority is to make sure that we continually upgrade and monitor and manage and maintain our business critical applications such as Munis, GIS, and our Nrta e-permitting system. Excuse me. We are due to the cybersecurity threat landscape, I'm asking for an information technology security systems administrator for next year. This position will focus on monitoring the system, engaging in mitigation, and working with contractors in the event of an actual attack. They will also manage the cybersecurity awareness training program and general systems administration tasks. My staff right now, with the increase in service requirements and requests and how our network is growing and the increase in cybersecurity activities is just stretched very thin, and we really have a need for this additional position. For capital, the network infrastructure money is an annual recurring item for maintaining the network. Server virtualization is an every other year recurring item so that we can maintain our virtual server environment, which houses currently most of our on-premise servers. Replacing town computers is an annual expense. That's for all of our desktops and our laptops. The GIS imaging updates are every 5 years, and this is to update the GIS images, and it's a flyover of the island so that they update any changes that have been made since the last time. Replacing the wireless network, this is a new one-time expense request to upgrade, like I said, our aging out wireless network and put in place a system that has a centrally controlled dashboard, and also to begin to put into place the foundation for potential public wireless access in the town core. For operational expenses, multi-factor authentication services, that is the Cisco product that I mentioned that we are currently rolling out, and this is to cover any costs for implementation that we require of the vendor. Migrating the Exchange mail server to the cloud. This is the licensing and will be a recurring expense that is actually part of our existing Office 365 expenditure, annual expenditure. So it'll become part of that. It'll all be one recurring expenditure. The multi-factor authentication licensing and hardware tokens is the licensing aspect of our Cisco Duo product. And this is a recurring cost. I put the hardware tokens in there to ensure that we have enough of these devices to make up for failure, potential loss by staff, and new staff coming in. Cybersecurity services, this is to engage a third-party vendor to help us with the monitoring and mitigation and potential recovery in the event of an actual attack, which we hope never happens. And upgrading the mail server. Oh, I'm sorry, I got that backwards. The item 2 is the one-time implementation costs by Dell, the Dell partner. And number 5 is the licensing that's going to be part of our Office 365 environment.
And Karen, you notice how all of us just jumped on that because you had it backwards, right? You were all right there in the moment, able to say, Karen, don't you have those backwards? Okay. Yeah, Karen, you don't have to go through all the, I think it's pretty clear what these are. So
okay.
Anyone's are, thank you.
Yes, I have a lot. I apologize. I have a lot to ask for this year. Any questions?
Thank you, Karen. Any questions? It's all pretty straightforward. And I'm hoping that everybody, oh, Joe, go ahead.
Yes, Joe.
Just a quick question. What do we do with obsolete and used equipment? Do we simply discard it? Can it be reclaimed or what have you? I just was sounds like you're turning over a lot of equipment, Karen. So
we use the equipment until it's depreciated down to 0, which in the case of laptops is about 3 years, and desktops it's 5 years. The hard drives are removed and destroyed, and DPW takes care of the disposal and or any recycling for that. As for the wireless network, that equipment is going to be aged out and probably obsolete by the time we replace it. If other town departments, such as a school, has a need for it, we always ask.
Thank you, Joe. Any other questions? And I'm hoping that everyone's doing all their security training that we get sent by the state, because it's important for all of us to, with town emails, to make sure we aren't a window into cyber attacks. So
thank you for that plug, Denise, and I will bug everybody periodically.
Thank you, Denise, also for mentioning that, because we certainly wouldn't want to have to report to anybody that it came from a FinCom email.
I feel very confident that the Finance Committee's on top of this. So
they are.
Yeah. Good. Thank you. Thank you, Karen.
Great. Thank you very much.
Jeff, it's your turn.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, thanks for having us. I know it's nice to check in with everybody on all of these things. I'll try to be brief because I know we're trying to be sensitive to time. So I'll touch on a couple of these and I won't get to all of them because I know you've read them. One of our main goals for this year, we've been tasked by town administration to start really looking into some way to formalizing a sustainability program for the town and rolling that out into other town departments and really bringing that into the town's operations. So that's something that we're really focusing on this year. When we get to expense increases, we've requested a person to kind of be the hub of the wheel for that for all of us. We've already talked a lot tonight about things like coastal resiliency and environmental sustainability. And obviously there's always concerns with water quality and surface water quality and the general environmental health of the island. So I think all of those things kind of wrap together. And the other one I wanted to point out of the 5 that we put there is goal number 4. And I think Denise touched on it pretty early. Oh, excuse me, Joanna touched on it earlier. Grant writing is something that for us, we've really identified as a really critical role for the folks in our department. We spend a lot of time putting together grants, and we 100% agree that developing some sort of programmatic grant writing function, at least in our department in the short term, is going to be really critical for putting together some of the planning initiatives and developing out some of the goals of the Coastal Resiliency Plan. And as we start to put together the sustainability initiative, how that's going to be funded in the short term as we start to develop a budget to be submitted as part of our regular town budget moving forward. Identifying grants and things is going to be really critical for us. So that's two of the five that I think really kind of highlight our expense increase requests for this year. I'm happy to answer any questions about the other ones. But again, I'm just trying to be brief. I won't bore you all with all the initiatives for all of our different programs. We have 1 million different programs and divisions. We're very diverse from wetlands protection to coastal resiliency to water quality to the shellfish hatchery. The outdoor environment provides a lot of opportunity for things to happen and to do well. So obviously our priorities moving into the year really focus on this bringing in sustainability and really also reinforcing and formalizing resiliency within our programs. As those are new, and I think those are going to be ongoing programs for the future as well to really make sure that Nantucket's moving forward in a positive direction. So again, I'm happy to take questions on these, but I won't bore you by reading them word for word. So I think where the crux of it comes to for our exceptions that we've requested for this year, I'm actually going to take these in reverse order if it's okay with folks, because it makes a little bit more sense. In an effort to bring in sustainability and to dedicate staff time towards it, we're going to do a little bit of a departmental reorganization that's proposed and create a little bit more of a structure where there are different divisions within natural resources that all come together and work together, but each division has a little separate focus. To do that, we're going to try to bring in some folks to lead those divisions. The sustainability manager is obviously critical towards implementing the select board's goal for the sustainability program. They'll be overseeing that division within the department. That's a new position, and that expense also includes health insurance. But we really feel that having someone that can, be the resource for staff and reach out to the other departments, especially, the energy coordinator and plus and the solid waste coordinator out at the public works, and work with our team to really start putting some sustainability goals and directives for the rest of the town forward is really going to be critical. The other one we've listed there is a conservation agent. One of the things we've seen demand-wise, the number of filings that come into the Conservation Commission can be pretty overwhelming at times. They take in anywhere between 100 and 150 per year. And that doesn't even, include things like this Wisconsin Bluff project and monitoring and those things. And right now that work is all done by myself and our previous office manager, Joanne Dodd, who's left to other pastors at this point. But we are really looking at filling a new position to kind of take that role and free up some more time for the rest of our staff, provide more in the field time, more inspection time. We added a coastal inspector last year. Morgan Sale has been doing an outstanding job for us in that, and we really feel like that program is moving in a really positive direction, and that piece is kind of the final step to really get it to where it needs to be and be its own division within there. And then the last one, number 2, is the one that we've asked for a couple times, and I think the first time we brought it up, it was kind of an interesting idea that didn't get put out the full way, but I think anything that's been learned in the last couple of years, at least in our department, is that public education and outreach is really critical for the things that we're trying to do and go forward. So we put forward this public outreach specialist position again. 50% of it would be within the natural resources department. 50% of it would be within health. But what we're really looking for is someone that comes to us with a background in the sciences that can understand, what Roberto may be talking about, or what our water quality specialist Thais may be talking about, and have at least a basic understanding, be able to put it into words that everyone can understand in a nice and pleasant way, and get the important information that we need to get out to people quickly and efficiently, and provide those to groups. We serve a really diverse range of people, from landscapers to homeowners. In health's case, I can't even imagine the reach that they have. But right now we're asking our core staff and our biologists and our inspectors and things to put those things together. and they're just not the quality that they need to be. And we really feel that a position like this will really take that kind of outreach to the next level for us and really make our programs more successful, and also provide, consistency and things that we can use in grant applications for, for graphics and presentation purposes to really try to, make our applications for funding in some cases stand out from others. So we really feel that that's an important position moving forward as well, and hope that people agree and think it's a worthwhile endeavor. And with that, I'm happy to guess I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Jeff. Any questions for Jeff? I personally think that the outreach manager is essential. We just have to look back on our last few FinCom meetings and the discussion on fertilizer to understand that as people who live on Nantucket, there's just so many environmental topics that we're closer to than you would be maybe somewhere else, both physically and just in your day-to-day life. So I think the more education, the better off we're going to be. So I'm happy to see that in your budget personally. So thank you. And I'm sure Roberto can also make good use of the 50%. So you'll both be probably using 75% of that person. So you're going to have 150% of whoever that is. So
yeah, I think what's been helpful is when we were able to move into the same location together here in the old fire station, that person won't be having to travel around. They can be, located here and work, directly with Florencia in the town admin office to get stuff up and use her guidance, but also we don't want to overwhelm her with stuff. So we think it'll be really useful and hopefully really, really be helpful for everyone.
Thank you, Jeff. Any other questions or comments for Jeff? Okay, thanks, Jeff.
All right, if it's all right with everyone, I have a Concom meeting going on right now. I'm going to hop off.
Bye.
If you have any other questions, feel free to email me.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Plus, Leslie, I'm guessing you're up.
I'm up.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you all for the opportunity to go over our budget tonight. I think you're all very familiar with what we do here at Plus, so I won't bore you with all of that. Our department goals for the upcoming year are to continue to improve our efficiency in processing permits and inspections and issuing permits. That's something that we've been working on since Plus started in 2012, and it's something that we will continue to improve upon. Our second goal is to continue to encourage professional development for all of our staff. A lot of our staff are credentialed in some way. It's really important that they stay up to date with current trends, practices, and the codes that they have to work within. And COVID's made that somewhat difficult. So hopefully, we'll be able to do some in-person things as well as online. And then third, to achieve additional operational efficiencies, which I sort of touched on already. It's a work in progress, and I think we've done a lot over the past few years. Our 2023 priorities. To continue with progress to update our master plan, and there's a funding request for that we'll talk about later. To fill the transportation program manager and or the transportation planner. I'm happy to report that we just filled the transportation program manager position. It's been a long time, and that's a position that we really need to move forward with a lot of important projects for the town. And then priority number 3, advance the update of the HDC historic surveys. There's a funding request for that, which I'll talk about in a minute. All right, so our exceptions for 2023. Personnel, we're requesting $10,000 for overtime. We do have an overtime budget right now, but because of all of the regulatory work that's very, very deadline driven here, plus just the application load between building, HDC, planning, and zoning, there's a lot of work and a lot of overtime. So the $10,000 will help bridge the gap between our budgeted and actual amounts over the past few years. The land use specialist, this is a position that was funded. We moved some funding around for some other things, and now we want to fill it again, except we want to change it up a little bit, and this person would do work primarily for the Historic District Commission, which definitely needs extra staff support. They would also do the work for the Zoning Board of Appeals. I've been doing that, and we need to have someone else take that on. So hopefully that's something that will be supported. Most of that funding is in our budget now. We're moving around some funding from the building department to bridge the gap there. For operational expenses, $25,000 for an update of the architectural surveys for HDC. Those were last updated in the 1980s. We did get some funding last fiscal year, well, which is the current fiscal year. And we've been working on that. We were able to leverage the funding that was provided to get some grants. So we're hoping to do that again. We're making some progress in the downtown and we'd like to continue that progress. The architectural surveys are a really important resource for the Historic District Commission when they're reviewing plans for new projects or changes to existing structures. Update of the 2009 master plan. We've been working on that. It was a little bit delayed because of COVID and everything related to that, as well as the census information, which was delayed. And we have been working with Weston and Sampson on a build out analysis that's taken a lot of money. We have other consultants that we'll need to engage for public outreach. We'll have to do a lot of advertising. We'll need to do some public relations work. And it's really important that we get this important plan updated. Replacement vehicle for Plus. This vehicle would replace a 2007 Ford Explorer that is in desperate need of replacement for our inspectors. And with that, I'll take any questions if anyone has them.
Thank you, Leslie. Brian probably has the answer to this question. Brian, where are the legal fees for when there are suits against the town, like the Dover Street one that just came up? Where does that, what budget does that sit in?
That would sit in the general legal fund budget if there was any fees that we had to pay for that.
Okay, thank you. Because I know that was part of a, it comes out of the building commissioner makes a ruling and then from there, blah, blah, blah. Okay, good, thank you. Joe.
Just a quick follow on to that. I probably should have asked this when your section was on, Brian. Our fees to K&L Law, are they spread around all the departments, or is there a central budget? And I'm curious, what do we pay them a year?
The vast majority of the fees are in the central budget, which is the legal budget, which is under town, is administered through town admin. If there's specifics, the town budget handles primarily everything, including general matters, negotiations, everything like that. The various enterprise funds have their own legal lines just because they're separately, like water and airport. And Plus may have some legal fees that they actually pay out of their budget, but the vast majority of the legal fees are all administered through the centralized account.
And the centralized account budget was about $500,000?
That I think it was, it was about $500,000 that we had, yes.
Okay, thanks an awful lot. Sorry to interrupt.
Nope.
Thank you, Leslie. Any other questions for Leslie? No? Okay, then over to Town Clerk, and Stephen, over to you as chair.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I realize that I have probably one of the less profound budgets on here, but thank you for your time and listening to it. The goals for this year, for next year, I should say, are really to continue to provide access to our Laserfiche public archive, which is linked to on the website. We're very proud of what we've got so far. We've been using a Laserfiche archive for 12 years, and we were able to replace the unit this year. And not everything, we've scanned hundreds of thousands of documents. Not everything we have is allowed to go up for public viewing, but we keep adding to it. And my goal is to continue that and expand that, as well as to encourage other town departments to look at their paper storage and look at the state records retention schedules. The state has made a lot of new rules there in recent years. For example, if in some cases that it's not an original paper document, as in the case of minutes, for example, if the document is securely scanned, the scanned digitized document can be the record and the paper does not need to be kept. So we're always looking at trying to reduce paper that isn't necessary. And to that end, down to the priorities, initiatives is reorganization of our vaults here. We've been working on that for really the last few years and continue to. We went up to our offsite storage again recently, and we're able to, get rid of some things there. And I think we all need to look at, what paper we're holding because we're at such a crunch for space. Priorities are for the a more official training program for our election workers. Most of our election workers, not most, but a large amount are very long-standing people that have been with us for many years, and they're key in training the new people. But I would like to have a more official program. It's hard to meet in person, so I'd like to try something visual and make sure that they all get the training that they're actually supposed to have. I don't have any particular exceptions in the budget this year. The significant changes are just planning for the 2022 elections, and the full Senate has not yet passed the Votes Act. It's in committee right now, so I can't really anticipate what they're going to do with things like early voting, which brought us so much extra expense for the mailed ballots during 2020, and the other different things we had to do for elections and town meetings that many of them, such as the outside town meeting, we all hope is a one-time deal, but other things such as vote by mail, I can't really plan for until they pass a final bill. So that is really all I have in particular today. If anybody has any questions, happy to answer them, and thanks for your time.
Does anyone have any questions? I know it was a hassle, Nancy, but I really liked town meeting under the tent.
I think most people did. I liked it too. I just didn't like planning it.
No, of course not.
Many other people, not just me.
No,
being
of course
there,
not.
I liked a lot.
It was a amazing accomplishment from everybody who was involved, I'll have to say. But it was nice being outdoors for the day. So
yeah, that definitely took a village.
Yeah.
The stress level was not something that Nancy and I can sustain.
Oh, Libby,
the weather is our massive fear.
Yeah, well, the day before you were right to be afraid. So yeah, good. Okay, thank you, Nancy.
You're welcome.
Good. Culture and tourism, Libby, I guess back to you and Brian.
Yep. I can go through all this stuff. It's not really a whole lot different. They just have one expense increase request, which is increased funding for the fireworks contract, which is going up.
Okay. My question is, how much do fireworks normally cost? I don't even know what fireworks cost.
Oh, 150-ish. Okay. Is that about right?
The previous contract was about 53,000. This has gone up to about 65,000 for the 20 minutes or 30 minutes, including the barge. So on an annualized basis, it's right around 200,000 for 3 years.
Thank you, Brian. Any other questions for Libby on this or Brian? No, good. Okay, Health and Human Services.
Good
Roberto.
evening. How's everyone doing? So, am I supposed to share my screen? Okay.
Maria will do
Just
it.
checking.
That's okay. Maria will do it. Roberto.
Thank you, Maria. So real quick, public health is usually split between two two branches of study. One is environmental health, one is community health. So as a department as a whole, with now that we have merged human services into us, we're able to create that dichotomy. With environmental health responses, which you see in goal 1, our big parts that are popping out are PFAS and the environmental health programs, which is everything from inspections to permitting. We have a lot of inspection programs, including housing, pools, foods, septics, lodging, tobacco, wells, whole 9 yards, plus all the permits. And then community health programs, which you'll see in goal 2, and I'll get into these a little bit deeper with the 2 asks. In community health programs, these are everything from epidemiology, as you know, infectious disease, like we've been living in the last 2 years with COVID, all the way through to substance abuse issues and homelessness and things like that. So Jericho's been working really strong to build up that robust side. So really quick, with our priorities, obviously right now, COVID is still in the forefront, even though it's starting to subside, knock on wood. Hopefully it starts getting better, it stays better, but it is still in the forefront of our minds. So one of the good things that had come out of it is that we have now had a spotlight on what public health actually does. And through that, we were able to secure a few grants from the state. One of them is a $300,000 grant that we're sharing with Martha's Vineyard that covers some behavioral health epidemiology, some vector-borne illnesses, which is our tick expert, things like that. And then also food auditing, which helps standardize inspection style across all the inspectors. And we're also we're in the process of looking at a grant for to help some capacity building with infectious disease issues on the island. So that would be working together with the hospital and health imperatives on providing services across the island and the VNA. With the second priority that you're seeing is just the environmental protection regulations. We've had a lot of conversation about fertilizer. In the event that the town meeting articles do not pass, or the state legislature doesn't pass the ban, we still need to update all the regulations. So fertilizer is a big one. PFAS is another one that's going to be moving forward. As we go forward, regulations for drinking waters and things are in the works. So thank you, Maria. And then real quick, the 3 asks that we have, the Chief Environmental Health Officer is actually a position that we already had. It is Artel Crowley. He was the Deputy Director of the Health Department at the time. He retired last year in September, and we had to negotiate with the union to get this position out of the bargaining unit. So that's why it's now called the Chief Environmental Health Officer. This is a supervisor position, which will be overseeing the 4 inspectors that we have, as well as performing inspections and helping write environmental health regulations. And then that public health outreach, or the public outreach specialist that Jeff mentioned and really expertly described, so I don't really have to build on that. We have seen in the last 2 years just how important proper communication is. And we're entering into another era of, for lack of a better word, environmental contamination. And you need really good communication expertise in communicating the science behind that. And then lastly, the 2 vehicles. We have, with the other inspector that we had part of the negotiation, so that was added last year. We're short 1 vehicle, 1 inspection vehicle, so we'll need to add that. And then the other inspection vehicle is a 2007 Ford Ranger that actually failed inspection. So we need to replace that now. 15-year-old car is a little rough. And then that's it.
Thank you, Roberto. Questions for Roberto? Must be nice to be at a committee meeting where you don't actually get questions, Roberto.
It's nice. It's nice. Looking forward to sleeping.
Okay, thank you, Roberto. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
And thank you for everything that you do. Really, I know it's a tough job, and you keep us safe. So thank you.
We like to joke about the committees, but if it wasn't for the whole team, we wouldn't be where we are today. So thank everyone, especially Libby.
Great, thank you. Okay, Mr. Gray, you're up.
The funnest topic of them all. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us. The department goals continue to kind of stay on the same track here. We meet our state mandate discharge limits. We're continuing forward with CMOM repairs. I imagine a lot of people have seen the big national water main trucks out there. For this last few weeks, they're back on the island doing a lot of lining of the sewer mains for us. Incredible process, and it's already taken out about 250,000 gallons of water a day out of the system that we don't need to treat. So II has been greatly reduced in the last couple of years. We're still moving forward with our comprehensive wastewater management plan, and we're looking forward to the Surfside area sewer project to be complete. They're in the stages now of the pump station build. They've had some issues with supply of equipment, but it's moving along well. And the third force main project will be getting underway here in the coming months. Other goals, which is a new one for us, but it's something that we're really excited about, is taking the lead on the Children's Beach stormwater. We're going to have a CMOM assessment performed as we did with the sewers, so that we actually know what's in the ground, what condition it's in, what needs to be done before we go into any kind of designs for pump stations or repairs or whatever. Moving into our initiatives is we're trying to take and continue with establishing a CMMS system for computerized maintenance management system. And we are going over to the microfiche of all of our documents, which has really been fabulous with the health departments and everyone else that's using it. So we're looking forward to that. Our priorities moving into it is definitely the third force main from C Street Pump Station. Priority 2, which seems to be on a lot of people's list, is the Baxter Road utility relocation planning. Again, PFAS is on a lot of people's radars as our priority 3. And we are still moving forward with our continued planning of the master plan. And priority 5 is a relatively new one for us. We did just have the survey completed. We did just receive the completed survey, and it's been in 1 year's time, we lost between 25 and 30 feet of frontage out front. So that was kind of shocking to actually see on paperwork. Not much on the significant changes or anything like that. We go down into the exceptions as it shows. The only thing that I was actually looking to continue with a couple of these things was some capital items haven't really changed much. We're still trying to take and maintain a lot of the same items. Our operational expenses, as anyone knows these days, to try to get a repair part, a piece for your car, or etc., the prices and costs have just gone through the roof. So we were just looking to increase that budget by a small amount. Wastewater chemicals is our biggest ask, and it has been incredibly difficult to get the chemicals that we need to be able to maintain our membranes, which is the biggest piece of our process here. Citric acid was non-existent in the country for anything except for food. And it really took some struggles to finally get some citric acid. And it was a huge increase in price, supply and demand again. And, equipment still is, the prices are going up, but chemicals was our biggest ask this year. Just because of the demand around the whole world. That's kind of quick and easy. If anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. And but I do appreciate everyone's time. So.
Thank you, David. Jill?
I really only had one, David. Thank you so much. It was all pretty clear. But I did notice on the budget that the insurance had gone up. I know that's not healthcare, but the insurance, maybe it's a question for Brian, but the insurance had gone from like 122 to 223. Is that because the additional buildings, or I wasn't sure.
You're muted, Brian.
Twice in one meeting. My apologies, Madam Chair.
That's okay.
It most likely, if it's in the non-insurance, it is because of any changes to the buildings and increased risk that we have at the facility. So yes, that would be, and we're facing that across the board, across all entities in the town. It's our insurance is becoming a little bit more expensive and more difficult to procure, given what they perceive to be the challenges with insuring an island.
Thank you, Jill. Joe, did you have anything? And then Chris, I'll come to you.
Yeah, just two quick ones. David, I noticed in your storyboard that you talked about the licensing of a lot of your staff. People have been getting various truck CDL and other operator licenses. Do you have any concerns with recruiting and retaining, the particular skills that you need? That's question one. Question two is, can you just comment on overall capacity in the two sewer plants?
Yeah, we trying to recruit can be very tough out here, especially trying to find anyone that might have had any experience in the wastewater or collections world. Luckily, all of our recent hires since we became a department have been locally retained, and a good portion of my staff, I would say probably 3 or 4 of my staff, are either actually trained chefs or had all kinds of background in the restaurant world. And they have turned out to be some of our best employees because they know an awful lot about time management, and which has been really good. Retention, I have to say I'm probably lucky. I have one of the fully staffed departments. Every now and then someone is either going to retire or move on to something else. There's been trying to compete with some of the private individuals has been tough, but when you sit down and talk to the employees and try to explain to them about benefits, we seem to be able to sway them a little bit. But, they want to go make the mighty dollar at $40 or $45 cash an hour, but the benefits don't line up. So I've been pretty lucky. I really have. And as far as the capacity at the facilities, Surfside, like I said, with the lining projects that are going on, we are removing an incredible amount of I&I daily, which gives us more capacity that we at the plant, so we don't have to treat clear water. Most of it's clear water or seawater from flooding. Sconset, we did see quite a bump out there during the peak of COVID. But this year we're seeing back to our normal winter flows of 8,000 to 11,000 gallons a day. So the COVID people that stayed for the last year and a half or so have now seemed to have moved on and are doing the same winter, summer kind of thing. The only thing as far as capacity is, like I said, is trying to get materials for repairs or chemicals.
Great. Thanks, David.
Thanks, Joe. Chris, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I did. Thanks. Hey, David. How's your erosion situation over on South Shore Road?
We lost 20 to 30 feet in the last year out front. We had a survey performed January 16th of 21, and we just had one performed a couple of weeks ago. And I didn't have the map when this handout was submitted, but it's been pretty significant. And in the 14 years I've been out here, I've never seen it. And I think one of the issues that I seem to be leaning towards is the rip. Anyone who grew up here, the rip that used to be straight off of Fisherman or right down the end of South Shore Road is now out front of us. It's completely changed its location. But the Sconset Beach, on the other hand, on front of those beds, they measured it the other day. and it's 195 feet. It's building in Wisconsin. So maybe it's all the sand getting dumped over Baxter Road. I don't know, but it's building
so
quite a bit.
You have to drive over there and truck it back. I mean, do you have a mitigation situation coming up? You're gonna have to
we are taking and working very closely with Vince from the on coastal resiliency, and we have reached out with the DEP director, and we're expecting to speak with them in the coming weeks or so to find out what our next steps are going to be. Right now, it's 171 feet from the edge of the bank to the closest bed, about 140 feet to the fence. So it's getting very alarming, but and it's got to do with the southeast and southwest winter storms. We never had southeast and south winter storms. You know, the whole time I grew up, it was always northeast or north. But that's one of our biggest challenges. But we do have thoughts and planning on how we're going to take. And if we lose the 3 closest beds, we do have area to build new beds inside the fence line.
Okay, that's what I was curious about. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And David, it's excellent how many of your team keeps their certifications to keep moving up the levels. I think it's really impressive every year when you share with us the number of new certificates that they've gotten and what they've achieved. So really congratulations to you and your team for their continuing education. It's real and getting their new certification levels. So congratulations on that.
I am extremely proud of the whole crew, and it's just been amazing. We actually have our engineer that's on staff is actually a retired school teacher. So he actually has been able to help a lot of the staff with some of the math stuff and whatnot. But it's been really good, and they are go-getters. They really are.
Congratulations. Excellent. Good. Any other questions for David? Well, thanks for toughing this out through the whole thing, David. It's
okay.
Nice to see you. And okay, now we're on to, I guess, Brian, you'll do the county, and then that'll wrap it for today.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, David.
Yes. So Maria, would you share the county, please? So thank you again, Madam Chair, and the members of the county review to be able to present this budget to you. Just a quick refresher and reminder, because we only really do this once a year with the county. The county is made up of county administration and registry of deeds, which is made up of administration and deeds excise. Next slide, please, Maria. The revenue sources are the town assessment, deeds excise revenue, recording fees, corrections deeds excise, which is related to the public safety facility, and any fund balance from the registry of deeds excise fund balance, which is specifically, limited to use for projects or expenses related to the operation of the registry of deeds itself, and then any county fund balance. I will note as we go through this that we're not proposing using any fund balance from either of those two sources. Next slide. The projected revenue for the year for fiscal 23, the town assessment is projected to be $174,707. Deeds excise receipts are projected to be $637,500, which would be made up of county administration, $382,500, and then registry of deeds fees in the amount of $255,000, recording fees of $180,000, and then correction deeds excise of $250,000. All told, projecting revenue of $1,242,000. Next slide, please. So the county funding requirement, which is also known as maintenance of effort, is by law, the county must provide a certain amount of non-deeds excise revenue to the registry every year. That amount does increase by 2.5% every year. The funding allocation was based on a starting point of $354,706. So we get to the $174,706 or $7 by subtracting the $180,000 of deeds excise revenue that's projected, and that gets us to the county, the town assessment to the county. Next slide, please. Projected expenses. As I mentioned, it is made up of three particular and distinct functions. County administration, we're projecting $258,984 in expenses. There are no employees funded through the county. The majority of these expenses are legal and professional services, and that's all. The Registry of Deeds, $523,679. This is where the three full-time employees reside. There's administrative expenses, including rent and other overhead, electricity, deeds excise, and special projects that the registrar may undertake. And then $250,000, which is paid directly for the debt to the public safety facility. Total projected expenses of $1,032,663. Next slide, please. So on this last slide, we compare the 22 budget to 23. So you can see we are projecting about just under $12,500 increase. As I did mention, there's no projected increase for county administration. Majority of the increase, actually all of the increase, is really related and centered in Registry of Deeds, and it's related to payroll. Majority of it is payroll. There's a small increase in some operating expenses, but the majority of the increase for the year is related to payroll.
And Brian is frozen.
Brian is frozen.
So I think we can read what's on the screen. Anyone have any questions? Pretty straightforward. When we actually approve this, we have to, as you all know, we have to have a county, we have to open it up as the county meeting and close it as a county meeting. So that's my only add to this discussion. Brian is still frozen.
Said his laptop died.
Okay. He's frowning.
Where's Karen?
In the picture I can see. Where's Karen? His is the 7-year-old laptop. Good. Okay. So I think if anyone does have any burning questions about the county, we can always address it at the next meeting. So with that, we had already discussed at the start of this meeting that we would move item number 7 to a future meeting so they can finish some of the things that they want to finish before we have to vote it and then re-vote it. So we just vote it once. Committee reports. Jill, I guess you can tell us the good news about the capital committee.
Yeah, I mean, we just met briefly to go over the report. So we're still going to meet in the future, but the report's been written and there are a few minor edits he has to make. So
he actually sent it out earlier, right before we met today. So I forwarded it to all of you. So at least that version, whatever version that is, that's the one I shared with all of you. Good. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Our next meeting is Monday, Valentine's Day. Looking forward to sharing that with all of you. Yeah. So and Ken will be our featured star for Valentine's Day. So wear a red shirt, please, Ken. And we'll go through all the real estate articles.
Is that because by wearing a red shirt, I can be a better target?
Oh, I didn't ask for concentric circles, Ken. If you want to do a process improvement, you go right ahead. Okay. Is there any other business? So just to refresh everybody's memory, Monday's real estate, Tuesday's planning, and then we have some articles and I think a couple left housekeeping things for the 17th. Maria, I think you can write. So we have 3 meetings next week, but I think they should all be within the 2-hour time frame, would be my expectation. Good. Any other business from the committee? Because otherwise I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, George. Okay, Peter. Okay, Joe.
Aye.
Aye.
Stephen.
Aye.
Jill.
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
And Libby, good work on the budget with all of your staff. I know it takes a lot every year, and it's a very clear presentation. The storyboards work great. I like focusing I personally like focusing on the exceptions. I think this is a good format for us, and many thanks to you and all of your team that worked so hard to get this in front of us. So much appreciated.
Thank you.
And Denise, aye, and motion adjourned. We're adjourned, folks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.